I once talked to Mr. Pink and Yellow and mentioned how psychologists would have to make allowances for women's behavior so they wouldn't have to describe them as a mental disorder, right? And he said, "Oh, I never heard of this before." Here we have it. This is the channel Hannah Spear. She's a good channel, not perfect, because she tries to put feminism with Marxism, which is untrue. But the point is, she's a good channel if you want to check her out. The rise of the pathological female, right? And why is it rising? Because women's bad behavior seems normal, right? Now, I'm going to show you this clip from Savvy Sabs of this woman acting up and how her behavior is actually condoned and encouraged. And then I'm going to respond to John Griffith here, right, where he talks about this situation as well. So first, let's get into Savvy Sabs. Here's a woman who's working at I forget what the place is, but she's basically working at a coffee shops, and she just acts out because she knows as a woman she has resistance, if not outright immunity, to consequences.
Here we go, folks.
I am racist.
So idiot, for
And
real.
you are.
So that's the part we can't show that right there, where she said that she is racist and you are the N-word. So let's come out here for just a second and then come back in.
I am racist, and I'll say that to the whole entire world. Don't be disrespectful.
You ruined your life, by the way.
Oh, you talking about respect? You talking about respect? You are
A male employee wouldn't be able to get away with this behavior. This is enabled.
fired from this place, motherfucker. You're not gonna be working here.
Suck it.
Suck what? Look how you
Suck
fucking look
it.
like.
What's wrong with you?
What the fuck is wrong with you, you fucking ugly bitch? Get the fuck out of my
Ugly?
face.
Talking about ugliness?
Did I stutter?
Yeah, so that's the first part. Now, I want to show you that she may or may not have been fired, right? 836. Let's get it up here. 836, roughly around here.
Went on to fire her. We have seen the disturbing video from the Cinnabon Bakery in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, and we do not condone this behavior. The former employee was immediately terminated by the franchise owner. Their actions do not reflect our values or the welcoming experience every guest deserves. And people came after Cinnabon.
Take a look.
They came after her. You lie, Cinnabon. She posted on TikTok account 3 hours ago, 1 hour after you had this post, clearly still working there. Screenshots with the date and time, plus the video. So
Now, I've covered this before, guys, in another video. It's in my important playlist, where a woman was a criminal. She got out of jail. She was hired immediately. And when someone brought up her criminality, the employees, her fellow employees, said they didn't care. She's female. We want her around. Now, this one is proof positive because, again, the woman has a rap sheet, 23. Let's get up here. It turns out this woman was hired when she has a rap sheet.
then this is the crazier part. This woman was, look at her record. This is Crystal Wilsey, the Cinnabon bigot. She abuses children. No.
Uses children, exactly. Nobody gives a shit about children. They only use children to attack men. These evil men might harm children, so get after them. But when women harm children, silence. And not only silence, they've hired this woman, didn't they? Hey guys, if you get thrown behind bars, what's the likelihood that anyone's going to hire you?
Wonder conservatives.
This explains why there's so many more homeless men than women, doesn't it? One of the many things. If you committed crime, guys, you're on the streets. Unless you have a family that's willing to look after you. When women commit crimes, people don't give a shit. They can't wait to hire them.
Love her. This woman had a rap sheet. Crystal Therese Wilsey.
Yes, Sabby, nobody cares. They want that pretty white woman around, right? So, okay, now we'll get into Hannah Spear here. And she talks about cluster B. Why? Because it's something that they don't talk a lot about because women in the majority end up in it, right?
Mental disorders is rising. We hear about it all the time. We're in a mental health crisis, but somehow the rise in cluster B pathologies that we feel all around us is not reflected in the research. Somehow the official prevalence of cluster B has not been updated for 2 decades.
It has been updated because the people in charge of mental health are women, and they don't want to say that women show these kind of traits. That's why.
The irony is that psychiatrists and psychologists are very quick to diagnose high-functioning individuals with mental health disorders, but they remain very reluctant to recognize cluster B conditions. And I'm going to explain now how exactly ideology clouds the root of these dysfunctions and how
it's ideology, but the ideology is based on human psychology. Sorry for getting this weird face, Spears. I just froze it here. The point is, this is an example, or I should say, an exaggeration of female behavior. This entitlement, right? This acting out. Women act out because there aren't any consequences. You and I would act out if we could get away with it. But we can't, we're male.
It's possible that we avoid discovering the true prevalence of cluster B pathologies. And I will focus on the female presentations here because the male version, the antisocial, is widely recognized, widely studied, and these individuals you will find prosecuted and incarcerated. But
exactly. When men act out, we're thrown behind bars. We're treated as criminals, right?
The female coded form, it's far more likely to be excused and misinterpreted and framed as other types of mental disorders.
Purposely misinterpreted, by the way.
Because we hesitate to be judgmental about female behavior. So that's why I'll talk.
It's not just judgmental. No one wants to put any consequences on them. Men pander to women. If a woman acts badly, he just excuses it because he wants to pander to her. And that has to stop.
About women here, and that doesn't mean there aren't men with cluster B disorders. Is that that's not the problem I want to discuss. First,
well, also, it's not a problem because when men act out, consequences come. People ostracize them, or they find themselves imprisoned, incarcerated.
Very quickly, personality disorders are conditions classified in cluster A, B, and C. We can talk about clusters A and C another time. These are inflexible patterns of thinking and behavior that lead to significant impairment, dysfunction in all areas of your life. The cluster B.
But not for women, though. Like that woman who abused a child or abused children. She was employed. And when she acted up, It looks like that the company said she was fired, but they didn't actually fire her. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but people were noticing she was still there. They might have fired her, but took a while to do it. There's reluctance.
Personality disorders. So that's borderline, histrionic, narcissism, and antisocial.
Narcissism, right? Look, the whole experience of men dealing with women is dealing with narcissism. Because there's a power imbalance there. Women's narcissism just looks normal.
They are categorized by erratic, dramatic behavior, manipulation, impulsivity.
The MGTOW guys used to call this a shit test, right? And they'd excuse it. They'd say, she's shit testing you because she wants to prove that you're willing to be a good boy, right? That you're willing to provide and defend her. When in actuality, it was just her acting out.
Very high negative emotion. The histrionics are very, they're seeking admiration. They want to be the center of attention all the time.
Why don't you just take the picture on your camera roll and keep it there?
No, because you feel when you take a picture and you look at it, you feel wow, like this would be good for my Instagram or I would post it.
And so then you can imagine how social media feeds into that. And these are
now they want to be admired, but they don't want anything that involves labor or sweat or blood. They don't need to. That woman who's talking, she can be admired. Sorry, I'm getting glare on my glasses, guys. I'll be right there. Nothing I can do about that. Continue.
are adaptive traits that are formed, and the boundaries between these are very porous. So that's why I like to say cluster B conditions or cluster B pathologies, because no one is just one thing. And to illustrate what this is for you, I've found a video. This went viral this year. It's a 32-year-old woman who had a complete borderline meltdown on a plane and had to be taken off in zip ties. You can see this is not just drunken irritability. She had...
Now, notice this woman loves playing games, because if a man acted out like this, he'd get beaten up. I'm not exaggerating. Other men would beat this man up if it was a man doing this.
Had alcohol, but that just amplifies this type of behavior. That doesn't cause all of this.
See, you're grabbing that woman's hair? Now watch how much guys baby this woman.
So you see the contempt. She wants to establish dominance, and she's entitled, and she expects everything.
Thank you, Dr. Spears. She wants to establish dominance, to say, I'm in charge. This isn't just mental illness. This is typical female behavior. Remember, guys, it's women who want to dominate, and they project their behavior onto us.
Everyone to accommodate her, not the other way around. And now she proceeds to grab her seatmate's hair, and while still clutching it, she insists, I'm not even touching her.
I'm not. Andre, I'm not even touching your hair, bitch. Andre, you need the police right now.
Like I said, gaslighting. Gaslighting, guys. That should be a crime, as far as I'm concerned. You should be incarcerated when you gaslight.
You need to let go right now.
We need those 911.
You need to let go.
911.
Look how wimpy the men are. You need to let go, right? Again, if a guy was doing this, those men holding on to her, they'd beat that guy. They would beat him until he let go. And they would feel justified in doing it. Just a moment. Guys, enough of Dr. Spear. Thank you, Hannah, because I want to get to John Griffin. And because Hannah, Dr. Spear, she actually, as a woman, is willing to admit women's behavior, whereas men aren't, let's say. The Karen phenomena. Let's hear this. This is from John Griffin.
We've all seen the videos. Some woman at Starbucks or in an airplane or at Target or Walmart has a complete meltdown, complete tantrum. And then when people try to intervene to prevent this really violent outburst in many cases from getting any worse, they turn into the victims. You're hurting me. I can't breathe. I'm just a girl.
He laughs, but I don't find this funny, guys. I find the fact that this has been enabled for generation after generation by men disgusting.
This is turned into a meme. It happens so often. We'll call them Karens, that kind of thing. It happens so frequently.
The reason why you're laughing, John, is because you're coping.
That we know exactly what the stages of this cluster B personality meltdown is when we see it.
I'm glad you're admitting this is cluster B, right? The thing is, with women, is it actual mental illness or is it just female behavior?
But for some reason, there doesn't seem to be any public outcry. Like,
there's not some reason. Women are entitled. They are the aristocrats of society. You know, if the nobleman runs over your child, in his carriage, people just accept it. The peasantry just accept it and mourn their child. That's what's going on here, John. That's why you laughed earlier. It's coping, right?
If men were having psychotic breakdowns and behaving in this way, there would probably be some kind of a special counsel created to figure out what the hell's going on. You know what I mean?
But more than that, they wouldn't do that, no. They would just demonize men more than they already are. We already are demonized for things we're not even guilty of. Society would love that. Society would love to be able to say, men are terrible, let's incarcerate them. They wouldn't be putting us in rubber rooms. They'd be putting us in the general population, the rape factories that the prisons are.
But because it's women, it seems like it doesn't get quite the same level of concern.
It doesn't have the same level of concern.
I would agree that men, when they have a meltdown, somebody's probably going to get hurt or killed. So I can see the...
No. This is bullshit right here. Women have been known to stab their boyfriends when they act up, when they get angry with them. I've seen one woman throw bleach in the man's face, in her boyfriend's face, and he died from that. They're willing to use implements and poison. John, you are making excuses now. And you're the exact reason why this is happening. You're acting like you're not a part of it. You are a part of it. If a man simply slaps another person, they consider it assault and he gets incarcerated. Women have been known to do real harm to another person and walk.
The difference in intensity there. But nevertheless, when women do this, it still disrupts people's lives, maybe even destroys people's lives. So my question is,
Then don't make excuses.
Feminism caused a mental health breakdown in women?
Feminism hasn't, dude. Feminism is itself a symptom of the broader cause. Broader cause is this is natural female behavior. People don't want to give any consequences to it. And so they act out. Feminism is a part of that. It's not the cause, right? If men stopped women from behaving badly, feminism would never have reared its ugly head in the first place.
Now, I don't want to make this whole video about feminism.
Well, it's just as well, because feminism is just a symptom of the problem.
I want to talk a little bit more about these cluster B personality disorders, but I think it's an interesting question. Now, I'll be the first to admit that for most of my life, I thought feminism was a good thing. I thought it was all about equal rights. That was my perception.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, the fact that guys thought that when it was so obviously not that is what pisses me off so much.
And only recently has it become clearer and clearer to me that feminism is not about equal rights at all. Feminism is just a word that they have co-opted to describe or to identify, to hide the fact that it's a radical political ideology.
Thank you for admitting it, John. It's a radical political ideology. Thank you.
And it has nothing to do with equal rights at all. In fact, it has everything to do with female dominance of our society and overturning.
Thank you. Female dominance. Right.
Turning all of the traditional values that we have held dear for, hundreds of years.
No, dude. They aren't, John, they are not against traditional values. Feminist women demand men be providers. They are not against marriage. These feminist women want to get married to a loser who will, sacrifice himself for them when they feel like it. They're not anti-marriage. They want men as providers and attack dogs. They are not breaking down society in that regard.
It's about forcing women into roles that they...
No. They're not into forcing women to do anything. There are times, John, that there'll be women who are collateral damage, such as when lesbians duke it out and woman gets seriously hurt. They won't prosecute the lesbian who did the harm. So in that regard, one woman was sacrificed in order to allow another woman to have free reign. That happens once in a while.
Don't necessarily want. It's about pushing women to do things that don't come naturally to them.
No. This is tradgone bullshit. Are you trying to say it's natural for women to have children and shack up with guys? If it was, then women would not be deselecting men. Women have always deselected men. If they didn't, then men wouldn't have struggled so hard in the past to get themselves a partner. Men always had to be providers, always. It was never a case where men and women just loved one another and decided to be with one another. That's a fairy tale, John.
It's about excluding anything masculine and calling it toxic. There is no two types of masculinity from their perspective. There's not good masculinity and toxic masculinity. All masculinity is toxic in the eyes of a feminist.
Well, that's why we have to ditch the term masculine, dude. That's why we have to do it. It's a waste of our time. When a man wants to be masculine, what he's saying, he wants to be validated by women. That's what he means. That's what masculinity actually means. Validated by women. Which means if they don't validate you, you're not masculine anymore. That's why it's a useless term.
So be clear when we talk about feminism these days. We're not talking about, those women back in the 1970s burning their bras and holding up signs saying equal rights.
Really? They're not? How are they not different? In the 1970s, they embraced the Scum Manifesto, Griffin. That means society for cutting up men. That's what it means. That's what those women in the 1970s embraced. So they were telling you to your face, our faces, that they want to harm us and they hate our guts. So why are you telling a falsehood?
No, that's not that at all. These are more like the anarchists. These are people who truly want to burn down society and start over with a female-dominated version of it.
No, they already are dominant, dude. Women have always dominated society. They're just practicing what they've always been practicing. They just have greater ability to do it. See what I mean, guys? Dr. Spears has a greater understanding of what's going on than this guy. Men are intentionally stupid, intentionally ignorant about what's going on. You hear that, John? You are intentionally ignorant. You don't want to deal with the harsh reality.
And I, for one, am not on board.
Well, that's good to hear.
So what are cluster B characteristics of a personality disorder? Really, we're talking about emotional dysregulation for the most part. Main character syndrome, where they believe that the whole world revolves around them. So,
well, why wouldn't you? When women get on TikTok or Instagram and show off their bodies and gets all kinds of attention, aren't they the center of their own world? John? Well, I mean, just simple narcissism, right?
There's some aspects of narcissism in it. They can be extremely aggressive, complete lack of accountability.
And why would they regulate their emotions if they never have to? You only regulate your emotions if there's consequences. It's not because you and I as men, are so much integrity. We know what we'll get our shit kicked in if we act up. So there's no incentive for women to regulate their emotions. Like, they're not throwing a tantrum. They're exerting dominance.
Very low on the empathy scale. There's a lot of narcissism, like I said.
Lack of empathy for us guys. Women have always lacked empathy for men.
Impulsivity.
Sorry, the White Feather campaign, John. Wasn't that a lack of empathy? And that was not second wave in the 1970s. That was in the early 1900s. That was in the late 1800s. No, wait, let's say. Yeah, it was. It was the First World War. So that would have been 19 teens. They were giving white feathers to young men to say, go off and die. Is that not a lack of empathy?
There'll be aggression followed by victimhood. And, unless you've been living under a rock for at least the last decade, you've seen this. You've seen it everywhere, just like I have. And you're not just seeing it in the most extreme cases like we see in these TikTok videos or on Instagram, but we're seeing it in our day-to-day lives.
Exactly. Right. So you think this is a rise of some kind of mental illness? What it is, it's simply the rise of women's freedom to act the way they've always wanted to act.
Now, maybe they wouldn't be having the same kind of meltdown that you would see in a video, but, scaled down versions of it,
Exactly. Scaled down versions. That's exactly what I've been saying this whole video. They're just exaggerated versions of typical female behavior.
Where it's still pretty extreme and it's still enough to make you think, is she crazy? Really? I think she's crazy.
But notice again, John, you're not describing, if a guy does it, you don't say he's crazy. You say he's a bad person. He's a criminal. We need the police here. Women don't avoid accountability. They're not held accountable. And you're not holding them accountable.
Cluster B and borderline personality disorder are not reserved for women. Men get it too, or men can express it too. When men do it, they usually end up in jail because...
Exactly what I've been saying all along. There are consequences for us. We usually end up in jail. And that's what needs to be happening to women now. We got to recognize that this is not really insanity. This is bad behavior that's being enabled by society. It has to be seen as criminal behavior. Again, not as a mental illness, as criminal behavior. Once the jail sentences start being handed out, these women get in line very quickly. All of a sudden, they get self-control becomes second nature to them.
The aggressive aspect of this disorder can result in people getting seriously hurt or killed. When women are aggressive, or they're in that assertive aspect of this disorder, it's pulling hair, scratching, throwing drinks, kicking.
Also stabbing and using other tools and poisoning. Like I said, that woman who threw bleach in her husband's or her boyfriend's face, right?
Being belligerent, being just mean. So they don't go to jail quite as often. They're more...
Oh, I see. So when a man acts up, he's not just being mean, right? He's vicious. But a woman acts up, well, she's just being mean. Like again, hey, John, when the women stab their boyfriends brutally, how is that? Is that just being mean? Again, you are a part of the problem, John. John Griffin. Let's see. Is that your last name? Yeah. John Griffin, you are a part of the problem. Until you recognize that you are part of the problem will remain. Now, I don't want to hang out, or I should say, drag out this too long. Oh, tattoos and piercings are red flags. How many times have they said that? Right. But anyway, let's go to the therapist. Why therapists won't diagnose. Right. Exactly like Dr. Spears mentioned, right?
I think it's pretty clear to any observer of our culture and society over the last decade or two that there is a mental health crisis going on in our country. Yet for some reason, those people who have dedicated their lives to helping people who are suffering from mental health issues struggle with identifying or wanting to identify these cluster B personality disorders in women.
They're not struggling, dude. Feminist, you remember you say feminist is a movement that's about dominance? Feminist women have taken over the psychology field. That's why. They want women behaving like this.
And a big part of the reason for this is because a lot of these women who have taken over the psychology field are cluster B. That's why.
Exactly, they infiltrated. They took over. You know why they took over? Because it's an easy gig. Mr. Griffin, it's an easy gig. You sit in a comfortable environment, in comfortable clothes, and you just shoot the breeze with another person. It's one of the best gigs ever. And you don't have to guarantee results. It's not like a bricklayer, right, where the chimney falls down. You don't have to get results. It's the perfect gig. And that's why they booted the other men, the men out of the field, right? They kicked the men out.
see this in themselves. So you can find a therapist or psychologist who is covered with tattoos and has face piercings, she's got a nose ring. These are indications that these women are suffering from exactly the same problems. And so they don't see them as problems. They don't see it as a personality disorder. They see...
Well, why would you see it a problem when you dominate? If you dominate an arena, why would you see it as a problem? It's not a problem to you.
it as a choice, a way of living, a lifestyle, if you will. And the rest of us are looking at it and going, no, that's pathological. That's fucked up. You can't act like that in public. You can't behave that with other people, like that with other people. You are not the...
Well, you're wrong, dude. These women don't get jailed. So we do say you're allowed to act like that in public. Like that one Sabby Sab showed. She was calling those people the N-words and telling them to screw themselves and go down on her. And I don't think she was even fired. And she was hired even when she was jailed, even though she had a rap sheet for abusing children. We do allow them to behave like this.
Center of the universe. You cannot go around disrupting other people's lives just because you think you're more important or that your message is meaningful. No, you are not the queen of the world, and we are fed up with it.
No, you're not fed up with it. You're upset. But if you were fed up with it, John, you would admit what's going on, and you would be calling for action, which you aren't.
You know, I think maybe I'm being a little unfair.
No, let's see. PDS cover. I don't want to drag it on. Psychology became female. Let's see. We'll get into this then.
Passion and empathy for other people. All these things are just...
Oh, female dominated. Exactly. That's what I just said earlier.
Men and women are complementary. And we work...
No, we're not, dude. Or if we're complementary as the slave master and slave is complementary. But no one wants to be a slave. No one wants to compliment another person like that.
Best in concert. I will be the first to admit that men probably are a little insensitive on an emotional level, but I can get...
Bullshit, dude. Women do hashtag kill all men. Who are you to claim that we are the ones that are insensitive? Again, you are part of the problem, John.
At that, I'll buy that one completely. But women are just a little too deep on that side of the pool.
They're not deep at all. They have no depth. They're completely shallow.
When you exclude masculinity from a field like psychology, which has been done.
Exclude men. Just say men.
Men are basically almost completely out of the field altogether.
Exactly. This is what happens. Women don't like men, John. They don't like you or me. So they enter a field, like I said, that's an easy gig. They make good money for doing almost nothing. And they don't have to provide any results or show any results. And then, because they dislike men, they boot us all out. They don't just dominate the field, they ostracize the men. And then they go to work in harming men.
Over the last 50 years, I think only about 10 to 20% of PhDs in psychology are men.
Exactly. So did men just lose interest in psychology? Or is the fact that they're coming up against a wall? They're coming up against brute sexism.
And certainly on the therapist level, it's hard to find a man therapist. But when you have a large percentage of women in a field, especially on the research side,
this research isn't going to be true. Right. They're going to start rigging the research so that it's false. is going to demonize men and uphold women as victims.
They start to see the world from a different perspective. Objective truth and reality start to fade into the background, and subjective, what would be right for everyone, kind of comes to the forefront.
No, not right for everyone. Attacking men isn't right for everyone. You and I are a part of everyone. No, you're making excuses and coping again, John. These women aren't really so much subjective. They objectively dislike men and want to harm us. So they're not making mistakes. Okay, I've gone far enough with John here. I've answered everything that needs to be, or I should say addressed everything that needs to be addressed here. John Griffin, you are a part of the problem. You personally don't want to really put any consequences or accountability on women. And that's why they behave the way that they do. So you want a positive change, you've got to come to terms yourself with reality, with objective reality. Not what you wish it is or was. Okay, we'll end it here.